In Lesson 29, we're going to start talking about decimals now. Decimals really do represent fractional portions of numbers and sometimes whole numbers as well. So I've given you place value for decimals here. I've just given you the hundreds, tens, and one places. Those are whole numbers. This part is really the whole numbers. And then past the decimal point, that represents our decimals. We have tenths. Notice they end with THS, hundredths, thousandths, and 10,000ths places, and of course it keeps on going, but those four are enough for us. You'll notice that the decimal places correspond to the places we have in the whole numbers except for the ones place. We don't have a once place as a decimal. We begin with tenths place. So we want to write these decimals as fractions, and what we have to recognize is that every decimal point represents a 1 with that many zeros. In other words, 0.7 is really 7, and it's in the tenths place. But I would think about it, I would think the 7 has one decimal place, doesn't it? Which is a 0 with a 1 in front of it. That's the denominator of my fraction. My numerator is the number 7. And then I would reduce it. Example 2, I've got 27. That really is in the hundredths place, but I'm going to think about it like this. 2 and 7, 2 zeros, put a 1 in front of them, and in the numerator, place your 27. It's 27 hundredths. Let's look at a mixed number now. I've got 6, which is a whole number. Let's write it as a whole number. And my decimal part is 8. And it only has one decimal place, so I'm going to put 1 0 with a 1 in front of it. And in the numerator, I'm going to put the 8. So it's 6 and 8 tenths. Now I can reduce 8 tenths. I can divide both of those by the number 2. It would really become 4 over 5. And that's the way I should always do it. So this is really 6 and 4/5 is the lowest form. Let's take a look now at number 4. It's a negative. It's really the same thing, though. Negative doesn't change much. It just changes the sign. I have one decimal place. I'm going to write a 1 with 1 0. So this is tenths place, and I'm going to put the 8 in the numerator. What is it as a fraction? It's negative 8 tenths. Number 5, whole number of 11. But let's look at our fraction. 1, 2, 3. Decimal places, well, that's 1, 2, 3 zeros with a 1 in front. This is thousandths place. What do I put in my numerator? The 406. But that's not the lowest form, is it? Both of those numbers are even, so we could divide them by 2. Let's leave our 11 alone, but let's divide 406 by 2. We would have 203. And if I divide 1,000 by 2, I'm going to have 500. And that's my lowest form of that fraction, or that mixed number. All right, number six, or example 6, 69 is my whole number, and I need my fraction part. How many zeros do I need in that denominator? Well, 3. I have 3 decimal places, so I'm going to have 3 zeros and a 1 in front, so it's a thousandths place. What number do I put up there? Well, just the 5. I don't need those leading zeros. You don't ever write 005. You just write 5, unless there's a decimal place before it. And when we've changed it to a fraction, of course, there isn't one. Now, can I make this a smaller form? Can I divide both of those fractions by 5? This would actually be 69 and 1. And if you get confused, take 1,000 and divide it by 5 and find out where it goes. I have 2 zeros. 5 into 1,000 is 200. So this is really 1 over 200 is my smallest form for 5 1,000ths. Let's take a look now at some decimals and see if we can put the less than or greater than signs in correctly. What we have to do with decimal places is we start comparing, if the whole number portion is the same, we start comparing each place value. In other words, with this first one, I have a 0.5 and the second number I have a 0.5. At that point, they're still equal. The second number in the hundredths place, they're both 4s, so they're still equal. But when we get to the third number, we see we have a 9, and in the second number, we have an 8. That's the number that's going to decide which one's bigger or smaller. This 3 and 2 don't matter at all. It's the first digit that we hit that's different that tells us. And of course, 9 is bigger than 8, so we'll put in a greater than sign. For example, 8, we've sort of got to think backwards because both of these numbers are negative. And when both numbers are negative, the first digit that's significant is in the tens place. We would normally say the 6 is bigger, but since it's both negative, the 6 is actually smaller than the 5. Think what happens. Negative 5 is really bigger than negative 6 because it's closer to 0. Same thing with negative 0.66 and negative 0.55.